Hello and welcome back to the New Wave Hockey YouTube channel. Today I'm wasting no time at all. We're going through my final draft rankings, my top 100 for the 2024 NHL draft. Basically how this is going to work today is I'm going to be going over my top 100 prospects, and from picks 1 to 50, I'm going in great detail. I have grades and everything for all of these prospects. And then I'm going to give you a brief description of my picks from 51 to 100. If you want more detail about all of these prospects in general, plus a few more prospects, because I might be doing 120, 130 prospects on my podcast, please go check out Spotify at New Wave Hockey Podcast. There's a link down below. I go in way more detail there. It's going to be a little bit longer, but if you're an avid watcher of this YouTube channel, I implore you, please go check it out. You're going to love it. I've really put a ton of work into these rankings, and I hope you enjoy. And one more thing before I start, I just released a website where you can read all of my rankings. I posted all of my scouting reports at newwavehockey.com, where you can see all of my rankings, all of my reasonings behind my grades, where I ranked them, why I ranked them there. That's going to be all of my top 50 and a couple of players that I got extended viewings of and just felt like talking about, because there are some pretty interesting players outside of my top 50 that I felt needed a discussion. So no more wasting time. Let's get right into it with the number 1 overall pick, Macklin Celini, and it's not even close. I wouldn't say it's the farthest gap between a first and second overall pick, but it's close. Macklin Celini has really separated himself from the rest of the pack. The fact that he's going to college next year is kind of disappointing because he improved in every single area of his game this year. His goal scoring got incredibly better. He is a great goal scoring two-way center now. He's incredible. He really has a chance to be an important two-way piece for the Sharks next season. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. He's very likely going back to Boston University next year, which sucks to hear from a guy like me, but for him, it's going to be awesome. He might challenge for 70, 80, 90 points. God forbid he score 100 points in the NCAA next year. He's going to win the Hobey Baker. I'm happy for him for his development, but it kind of makes me feel bad for the Sharks because they're missing out on an incredible player next year if he ends up not signing. So let's get into the grades. Skating is going to be a 9 out of 10, just a spectacular skater. He's one of the best in the entire draft, one of the smartest skaters as well. His shooting has improved so much this season. I'm a huge fan of just how his shot has developed. His passing and vision is also going to be a 9. He really has like a sixth sense on the ice. I'm really big on his passing. His puck control is going to be a 7. I mean, he's improved a ton over the season. I thought that it wasn't the best part of his game, but he's really improved it. And I think with more development in college next year, it will be even higher next year. And of course, the compete and IQ are both 10s. This guy is the biggest competitor on the ice, and he's one of the smartest players in all of this draft. That leaves him with a final ranking of 9.2, the only player who's above a 9 in this entire draft overall. I'm a huge fan of Macklin Celini, and he is going to be a tremendous pick at first overall. My second overall prospect, I've been saying this for a long time, and it has not changed. Ivan Demidov, and I have no qualms. I really am a big fan of him. He is one of my favorite Russian prospects that I've ever seen. I mean, second only to Matvei Michkov. I am a huge fan of Demidov. I think his game is more translatable than people think. And of course, he may drop, and people are going to get a steal in this player. Let's get into his grades. His skating, 2 in 10 style, is not looked upon as great, but I still have his skating at a 7. And I think his insane edges and how smooth he is on the ice and how strong he is when faced with physicality makes him a good skater. And he's not at the high end, but he's not at the low end. I love his skating. I have it at a 7. People need to get comfortable with the fact that Demidov is a pretty good skater, and I'm not going to back down from that. His shooting is pretty good. I would like to see more power in his shot, obviously. He does have a pretty long wide up, and again, he has a quick release, but it's been getting quicker over the rest of the season. It's something he's improved, but I wouldn't say it's the best part of his game. I have him at a 6.5 for shooting, because again, when he's scoring, he's using another part of his game. Let's go on to passing. Passing for me is going to be a 10. He was my best passer in the entire draft, my best passers video. This guy makes all the right moves. He makes split-second decisions. He's so quick. A 10 out of 10 passing. His stick handling is the best I have ever seen in a draft prospect, and it's not even close. If I could put him at an 11 out of 10, I would. 10 out of 10 for stick handling. It speaks for itself. You've seen all the highlights. His compete is pretty good too. I see him fight for pucks. I see him aggressively attack that defense. For compete, he's still getting an 8, and for IQ, he's getting a 10. Overall, Ivan Demidov is getting an 8.8 grade out of 10. I think he is just fantastic. If he falls out of the top 3, someone is getting probably the steal of the draft. I will declare Demidov as the steal of the draft if he gets past Anaheim. He could be a generational player if developed right, and that's all the reasons why he's my number 2 player on my board. At number 3, I have Zeev Boyum from Denver University. That's something that also has not changed in a long time. If there was a Norris Trophy in the NCAA, this guy would have won it last year. He was easily the best defenseman in college, and yeah, I'm going to die on that hill. His skating, very excellent. I'm a big fan of it. He does have a little bit of inefficiencies in his strides. However, he's always moving. You never notice it because he's so fast. This guy's compete is so good. I'm going to get there. His shot, pretty deceptively good. I like how he creeps up to make his shot better. I mean, it shows some maturity in his game. I want to see more shots from deep, obviously, but he has a lot of power play potential. I'm a big fan of his shot. His passing and vision, it's elite. His IQ is elite, and his vision is elite, so his passing ability is also elite. He makes passes and decisions that you would never guess. Who does that is the question I'm always asking when I see him in the offensive zone or in transition. He is so good at passing. His puck control is really, really strong, and it's one of the reasons why he is such an elusive defenseman on transition and on offensive attacks. He will rarely fuck up, and when he does, he has the skating and the compete to back check and get the puck back. And his compete is excellent. He's got great physicality. He looks like a linebacker when he's at full tilt, but the IQ. He's the smartest player in the entire draft. I love the positioning in every single shift. He is never not in the right position. It's like you're playing chess and you're like, oh, that's not the book move. Turns out he just hit a brilliant move on you. That's incredible. Zeev Boyum, my number 3 overall player in this draft. My 4th best player in this entire draft, Artyom Levshunov from Michigan State. I've seen him 3 times in person, and those 3 times have made me appreciate his game so much more. His skating is very good. I'm not a huge fan of his stance on the ice. He looks very stiff, but looks can be deceiving because, oh my goodness, those legs are very quick. He's very good at beating opponents with his skates and also having great gap control because of this skating ability. I'm a huge fan of it. Shooting ability needs to get better. His offensive upside is a little bit limited because of his shooting game. I want to see more, and right now I haven't seen it. I have questions with him going 2nd overall because of this offensive upside and lack of it, but he makes up for it in his passing. It's insane. He's such a good outlet passer. He's really good at joining the rush. It reminds me of Miro Heiskanen, even though I wouldn't have him as a player comp for him. That's more of a Noah Dobson, but he looks like Miro Heiskanen when he just joins the rush and gets so active in passing it right to the open net from under the circle. Puck control, it's pretty okay for a defenseman. I wouldn't say it's his specialty, but it's all right. I can do with it. His compete defensively can be otherworldly. He closes gaps so well. He's a monster in front of the crease, but only when he wills it. It's a little bit inconsistent. I'm going to be real with you. For a top 5 pick, he has the worst compete out of the top 5 of them, and they all have really good compete. But Levshunov, I want to see more bite to his game, a little bit more aggression consistently, because this guy plays a great game. His IQ, very solid too. I love his defensive positioning, and again, it's just one of the many reasons why he's number 4 on my list. And my number 5 prospect in the entire draft, Caden Lindstrom from the Medicine Hat Tigers. This is the prototypical power forward center that you just cannot trade for. You have to draft him. He could be a very solid number 1 center someday, and I'm very, very excited to see what happens with him. His skating is very good. Very solid, very smooth, bit of a choppy stride. He can get a lot more out of it, and I cannot wait for someone to improve his stride and to see him extend past the hips because he could cover a ton of ice, even more than he does right now. His shot is fantastic. I got a little bit of shit for not putting him in my top 5 shooters, and yeah, I feel a little bad because he was just outside. He really was just outside. He's got a quick release, really fast shot, a deadly one-timer, and he will make you pay if he's open in space. His passing has slowly been one of the better parts of his game. He's really used the players around him. Yes, he's playing with guys like Thomas Mercic, Gavin McKenna, Andrew Bassett, just to name a few, and again, he takes full advantage of it. Those players get a ton of goals from his assists. It makes me think that he has a long-term future at center. Puck control, honestly, very solid. He's a bit more of a puck protector instead of using his stick more often, but that's not an issue when you're 6'4" and huge. His compete and physicality, they're his calling card. He is a dangerous player to go against on the ice. He will run the fuck through you. This guy loves physicality, and he will compete for any loose puck. He will drive right through you on the attack. This guy is a monster, and his sense does need to get better. He does need to think the game a little bit better, but for now, he looks so projectable, and I don't know why he's not a lock for anybody inside their top 5. And at number 6 overall, I have Anton Salv from Torpedo. He is the safest pick in the entire draft outside of the red herring of Macklin Celini first overall. His skating is one of the hallmarks of his game. He could be ready to play in the NHL right now because of how he skates defensively. His stride is so good. He covers a ton of ice. He's really fast, and oh my gosh, that edge work is so good. I love it so much. His shot is okay. He does need to get better at it. He can really rip it for a guy who's 6'7", but accuracy is an issue, and he does need to develop more of an offensive game, and it starts with the shooting. His passing, really solid. He's good at outlet passes. He is good in transition as well, but he knows how to distribute it at the top of the blue line. He is a very smart, knowledgeable player, and he uses his surroundings very well. Puck control, honestly, really impressive. I mentioned his transition game was really good because of outlet passes, but he carries the puck up the ice very well. He could be a machine at the next level, and I think projecting him as a really good puck mover at the next level is not a stretch at all. His compete and his defensive ability and his defensive sense are elite. He could play in the NHL next season. I have held this belief since probably February, and I'm not going to change it now. Again, the offensive upside, it hinders him a little bit. But defensively, I do not think you will find a higher defensive floor or ceiling. This guy really has the moon as the limit for him. He could be the best defensive defenseman in the league in a few short years. I'm so high on Anton Salv. And at number 7, I have Carter Kiimchuk, another defenseman from the Calgary Hitmen. This guy is just electric in every sense of the way, and that's the perfect description of his skating. He's super, super fast. He's a little choppy in his stride, but he's very, very fast. I love his edge work, but he can't really stop when he starts, and that kind of is an issue for him. He gets drawn into the zone a little bit too far sometimes and can't really get back. He doesn't have a great pivot game, but it can be improved. Shooting is one of the best parts of his game. He is one of the best shooters in the entire draft, one of the best shooting defensemen I have seen in, God, a long-ass time. His passing is really efficient as well. He draws defenders towards him to make incredible passes, and it's furthered by his excellent stick handling. His hands, very, very quick, very deceptive. I would classify better than Zane Parekh and even Zeev Buium as well. His offensive skills are incredible. His compete can be very effective. I think if somebody can coach him and channel him in the right way, this 6'3" monster can be a train wreck that nobody would want to play against. Imagine Matt Tkachuk, but on defense. That's what I think perfectly describes Carter Kiimchuk. This guy is an asshole, but he's an asshole you'd want on your team, and I want him on my team because he's going to be someone that nobody wants to play against, and those types of players are players you should prioritize in this draft. And at 8th overall, I have Ginla. This guy is an offensive dynamo. There's no other way to describe him. Skating-wise, he's pretty good, but he can always improve. He's got a bit of a choppy stride. Edge work is kind of fantastic. I'm a big fan of how he uses his edges in tight. He has one of the best shots in the draft. I would classify it as my number 2 shot in the entire draft, and there's a pretty good reason this guy can rip a puck. He's dangerous in all situations, off balance, on balance, in any type of space. He can rip it. His passing ability is becoming more and more impressive for him. Him being formidable as a shooter makes him a better passer. He draws people towards him, and then he'll just dish it off to the next guy behind him or in front of him. He makes space and makes passing lanes. He's a smart player with great vision. His puck control has significantly improved throughout the entire year. I think he's got silky mitts. They're some of the best in the entire draft. They're quick. They help him move along the play, and wow, he can beat a goalie one-on-one with them. Compete is very admirable. He fights along the boards. He's not a power forward like his father, but he still shows the effort. His defensive responsibility and reliability and positioning needs to get a little bit better, but god damn it does he compete, and I freaking love it. I love TJ Ginla at number 8. And at number 9, I have Zane Parekh. His skating is really solid. I wouldn't say it's elite or high end because, again, his skating stride is a little weak in a straight line, but his forward mobility is great. He has some of the best edge work in the entire draft, and it's part of the reason why he's so active and so slippery in the offensive zone. I love it. His shooting game could be a little bit better. I want to see more shots from distance, but I love the maturity in his game that he knows that his range is a little bit past the blue line. He moves up to take shots, and that's a great part of his game. He's very accurate, doesn't really have a lot of power behind it, not really fast, but very accurate. I love it. His passes are downright disgusting. He's got some of the best vision in the entire draft, and he just was off my top 5 passers, but he's number 6. He was fantastic. He's really great in finding holes, and he's going to be a great power play quarterback at the next level. His mitts are downright disgusting. He's really good with his quick hands, and it's another reason why he's a great transition defenseman. Compete is where he lacks, though. I want to see him engage more physically and on defense, because right now he only uses stick checks, and that's a bit iffy for a defenseman. This is the main question for him, because if he can get that compete down, he will be a great player at the next level. It's a huge risk reward with Parekh because he could be Quinn Hughes, an amazing Norris Trophy defenseman, or a bust like Adam Boqvist. And at number 10 overall, I have the American shooting superstar, Cole Iserman. His skating is kind of sneaky good. I'm a really big fan of how fast he can get up to his top speed. He's quick and deceptive on his skates. He's a bit hunched over, which isn't ideal, but he is fast and he loves to get open. He is very slippery. Some of the best traits that leads to his great, not great, his amazing, not amazing, elite shooting ability. Cole Iserman has one of the best shots in the draft that we have seen. He does have issues with his shot selection, obviously, but he is electric and shoots for rebounds. I want to quote elite prospects for a second. Yes, his game is a little bit one-dimensional, but that one dimension is insanely good. His passing, you wouldn't really believe it, but he's kind of a good passer. He just needs to pass it more. The fact he's a shooting threat makes his passing game better. People come towards him, they're drawn towards him, so he passes it off. Open shot for his teammate. His stick handling has been getting better over the course of the season. He's becoming a better stick handler every single game, and I love watching this development. His compete, obviously, it needs to get better. I can see some promise in the fact that he's a very physical player, and I hope that BU rounds him into that type of player. But his compete, it lacks. His defensive reliability definitely lacks. He needs to be more responsible, 100%. But I see the potential. I can see the light. I know that he can be a great player. His potential is so high. That's why he's my number 10. Number 11, I have Casper Helenius from Ukraoit. Wow, what a great player. Jack of all trades, master of none. I love his skating. He's very, very good at skating. He's got one of the best strides in the draft. Shooting, he needs to shoot even more because he can really rip a puck. Passing ability, I've already told you. The vision's there. I love it. His stick handling, honestly, really solid too. I want to see what he does in smaller ice and the compete. He's got one of the best competes in the entire draft. So high IQ. Casper Helenius, man, he's such a complete player, and it's just a theme that you're going to see from me. I love completeness in a player's game. I love Casper Helenius at number 11. Number 12, I have Sam Dickinson from the London Knights. Yeah, there's a lot of things that make Sam Dickinson great. There's a lot of holes to his game that I think people need to talk about. Yes, he's a pretty good skater. I wouldn't say he's the fastest, and he doesn't recover well once he's burned, but going into the offensive zone, supporting the rush, he's very solid. Got a great shot, too. That big wind-up clapper that he has, again, it's impressive. I love it. His passing ability is pretty good. Sometimes he'll make some dumbass passes. That's not great. But in the zone and in transition, usually he has a high success rate. Big fan of that. I want to see a better stick handling game from him. Obviously, he doesn't really need it because he's more of a puck protection guy. And yeah, he loses the puck every so often. But the compete's there. I can see it in him. I can see the defensive competency in him. It's not the best compete, and it's not the most defensively reliable that I've seen in this draft. I think Levshinov and Salayev definitely have him beat. But I can see a steadiness in his game. I can see a guy who, for sure, guaranteed, will lock down a blue line for 15 years. And depending on where he goes and what his upside looks after that, it's unclear. But baseline, you have a guy who can play for you for a long time. At number 13, I have Berkeley Katten. This is the same place where Zach Benson went last year, and coincidentally enough, they're similar in their player comps. I think Berkeley Katten will not work out at center, but his skating's really good. It's not the fastest, but it's one of the best in the entire draft, and he can beat defenders with it. His stick handling, fantastic. Berkeley Katten does have a pretty good shot. I wouldn't classify it as one of the best in the draft, though, because he doesn't score with it a lot. He usually scores on the rush. Passing ability, oh my gosh, it's so insane. He makes these passes that I'll never be able to predict, ever. He's just so insane with the vision. I really am a big fan of it. Berkeley Katten does need to fix his compete, though, on defense. Where's the effort, man? I need to see more of it. Berkeley Katten, that's why you've fallen all the way to 13 for me. At 14, one of the draft's highest risers, Becket Senica. I didn't really buy into it. I bought into it now. The skating, it can be better. I am giving him the benefit of the doubt of him growing a ton in the last few years, and he's now huge. He's 6'3". He needs to bulk up and get better, but that stride, it looks like it can be so much more powerful. The stick handling, he has some good hands, man. I'm a big fan of it. His passing ability is really good too. He knows how to dish it off, and he's going to be someone that's going to really impress me once he grows into his body. His shot, it's not elite, but it's something that I've really liked. And for somebody that wasn't even my first round 2 months ago, compete. Man, this guy can compete. I cannot believe that I didn't recognize this game sooner, because in the OHL playoffs, it really sold it for me. Becket Senica is a fantastic player at 14th. And at number 15, I feel bad for having him this low, but Michael Bronsick-Nygaard is one of the most complete players in the draft. He looks like an NHL player right now. His skating is a little bit iffy. I'm a little worried about his skating. He needs to get faster. He needs to be better at pivots, at quick stops. But he's very reliable. He's very smart on his skates, which makes him a better skater overall. Passing, there are some times where he doesn't have some great vision, but generally, recently, he has been better at it. He's gotten better over the course of the season, which I like, but it's not there yet. The shot is fantastic. It's one of the best in the entire draft, and nobody talks about that. The wrist shot, the snap shot, the slap shot. Oh my God. He's so good. He's really good with the stick, and his stick handling, it's not that great. I wish that he could handle a lot better and a lot cleaner, but he doesn't make too many mistakes. I'm not really in any position to complain. His compete. He's the number one player in my draft board in terms of compete. He is so good in the defensive zone, in the blue line, in the offensive zone. He attacks, he attacks, he attacks. He never stops moving. And that's one of the reasons why I have him so high, despite all the technical flaws I see in his game. He has the tools to make it better, but the compete and the effort is where I truly believe he will improve. At number 16, I have Teddy Stiga from the USN TDP. Not a lot of people have him as high as I do. I really believe in the kid, and this guy knows how to compete and work. And I saw a side of his game that really made me think that he's going to translate better than a lot of players in the USN TDP. His stick handling is just fantastic. His skating, he's got a great skating stride. He may not be the fastest yet, but let him bulk up. Let him get more power in his legs. This guy is going to explode someday. His shot is honestly really impressive, but the passing vision is where I see it. It's where I see him really falling into the top end of this draft and being a great player. And if he falls out of the top 20, God forbid that happens, he is going to be a steal for somebody. Teddy Stiga looks like the real deal. I can't imagine he falls too far out of 16. Number 17, I have Michael Hage, one of the most dynamic centers in the entire draft. I love the skate. Love it. Give me more of the skating. Stick handling, oh my goodness, he can dangle around some guys. But the shot, wow, he is going to be an incredible playmaking, goal scoring, I can't really figure it out yet, player at the next level. Combine the fact that he is a center, oh my goodness, he's going to explode the next level with the right development. And he's going to Michigan, so he will develop. Trust me on that. I love the shot, the passing ability. He does need to get a little bit more selfless with the puck. That's something where I really think he will transition into the best game possible for him, because he doesn't really have a role yet. He could be a great playmaker if he just learns to, pass it off a little bit more. And the compete. His compete is just unmatched. It's truly insane, and I'm a big fan of Michael Hage at 17. At number 18, I have my 7th defenseman, Dominic Badinka from Czechia. He played in the top Swedish league this year, and he looked really good. He didn't look out of place at all. Freakishly calm under pressure. His skating is really solid. He can move the puck up the ice so well. He's going to be a great puck-moving defenseman at the next level, and he's big too. His shot, it's pretty good. I mean, he gets plays going with his shot all the time. He shoots for rebounds. And the passing, don't even get me started. He's amazing in transition. I love the outlet passes. I love how he moves it around in the offensive zone. His stick handling is also pretty good too. And I love the compete. There's just a hunger in this guy that you cannot get from any other defenseman that's not in the top 6. So Dominic Badinka, easy choice for number 18. And at number 19, I have Liam Greentree. I do want to apologize to Liam Greentree because he was in my underrated overrated series as one of my overrated players. People have come back on him. And now I'm more of an optimist on Liam Greentree. I think 19 is a great spot for him because he's a bit of a project. 3-4 years, it's a bit of a generous gift for him that he will need to develop into a really solid piece to someone's line. I don't think he's going to be a play driver at the next level, but he will be a piece to a great line. And this guy could be a pretty solid two-way power forward. I just need to see more compete. Skating needs to get better, but the skills, shot, stick handling, passing, they're all great. I really like Liam Greentree at number 19. And at number 20, Trevor Connelly. I used to say things like, if it weren't for the off-ice issues, he'd be in the top 10 of my draft. I used to think like that. But off-ice issues, they do matter. And the on-ice issues, they're there too. And I cannot ignore them. Sure, skating, super dynamic. The shot, oh my gosh, I love the shot. I really love the shot. I can't talk about the shot enough. The passing ability, he's really knowledgeable and he's really smart in his own zone. Until he isn't. And the compete. And he's got no defensive reliability. I've seen way too many times him slack off on defense or make a really bad read or take the puck in himself and not pass it off. And his selfishness, his lack of vision have really brought me back on the player. In addition to the off-ice issues. And also in addition to some of the dumb penalties he takes. Trevor Connelly is the most frustrating player in the draft because he could be so great. It's just going to take a lot, and it's going to take a really great coach, hopefully at Providence, hopefully at the next level, to get the most out of him because I see the potential in him. It's just going to be really hard to bring out for Trevor Connelly at 20th. And at number 21, I have Emil Heming, who is just a really solid player out of Finland. His skating ability is really, really good, and I cannot wait to see what he does with the physicality that he's shown me and the compete that he's shown me on some smaller ice when he eventually comes over to America. There are a few weak points in his game. I think his shot is fantastic. He needs to shoot a ton more because he's got to take full advantage of that shot. Passing ability-wise, he needs to get better. He needs to take better advantage of people around him because sometimes he misses passes with his vision. It's not great. Stick handling, he does have a tendency to over-stick handle sometimes, but for what it's worth, he's a pretty solid stick handler. At 21, I would say he's a very safe pick for any team to gamble on as a big, fast, good shooting winger. And at number 22, I have Anton Frey from Växjö in the Swedish Junior League. Frey is one of two defensemen from the same D pairing in Växjö that are in my top 50, and I think he's the better one of the two, partially because of his tools, but also because of his offensively dynamic game. I don't think he's as good of a skater as his D pair, but his edge work is fantastic, and his movement around the blue line, his just four-way mobility in general is just absolutely electric. I love the shots that he gets off. His passing ability from the blue line is really solid too. Nothing to scoff at all, and he's kind of mean in the defensive zone. He's some guy that's going to be really tough to maneuver. He reminds me a little bit of a Tom Wielander from last year, a guy that really has flown under the radar and should kind of just rise a little bit in this draft. Big fan of him. I love Frey. I think he's far and away the best Swede that this draft has to offer at number 22. At number 23, I have Sasha Bav, and he is amazing center from Muskegon in the USHL. The only real weak point in his game that I can confidently point out is his skating. I wouldn't say it's too weak, though. He gets some good movement, but that's because he's always moving. His compete, while it does take a little while to get going, when he's going, he's at full tilt. I would love to see him develop into a better skater at North Dakota, because, again, he's going there next year. We'll see what he can do with some better skating coaches. But, again, that shot, he could transition to an amazing goal-scoring center at the next level. I like the vision he gets more than other people do. He really had a knack for passing it to the right open guy, and I don't think you can teach that. He's somebody that really has just brought out the best in himself, and the best in his teammates as well. One of his teammates is in my top 100 as well. Stick handling is all right too. He's a very complete player, a big player as well. That translates at my number 23. And at number 24, I have from the WHL's Everett Silvertips, Julius Mennen. This guy has very recently climbed up all the way to number 24 on my list. There's a lot of great reasons why. His compete is probably one of the best in the draft after guys like Michael Bronsignigaard and Zeev Boyum. I think that highly of him. And you guys know how much I love those players. He's so smart in his own zone. He's so smart in the defensive zone. He's so smart on transition. He knows exactly where to be before the play goes there. He has this kind of sixth sense ability about these types of plays. And his skating's not great, but his IQ and his smart skating ability makes his skating better and makes him appear faster than he actually is. His shot's pretty good. I would love to see him shoot from distance because, again, a lot of it's cleanup goals and goals that are greasy just for in the net. And that kind of leads to him not being a projected dynamic scorer at the next level. His passing is really helped by his high IQ game and his stick handling. He thinks the game a lot better than other people, and that's why I think he might be a lock for a middle six role at the next level. I think any team will rue the day that they don't draft this guy because he's going to be an annoying player to play against at the next level. And at number 25, I have Igor Cherishov from Moscow Dynamo. His skating ability is really not that bad, but it could be quicker. He could be more balanced on his skates. He has a bit of a choppy stride. He gets some speed and quickness, and he loves to move around guys. And he looks a little out of control at some points. I want to see a better start-stop to his game. And of course, he needs to skate better and more confidently with men. He looked really confident, really solid, especially in his shooting, in his passing, in his puck control. But he got more skittish and less confident in the KHL. I think him switching between both leagues is a positive for him. He did kind of well in the KHL when he was up there, and he was really good in the MHL this season as well. He got kind of bored. That's why I have his compete as a maybe, because he got really bored in the MHL, and there were some times where he just kind of looked like he didn't really want to play at that level because he was so dominant. But again, you need to always give that effort, no matter what level you're at, especially if you're in an easy level. But I saw flashes. I saw when he was motivated, he used the body, and I loved it. And at 25, I think it's a really good place for Igor Cherishov to land. And at number 26, I have Leif Erikson from Your Gardens in the Allsvenskan. He played with men this year, and he didn't look too out of place as a big guy himself. He gets some pretty good movement under him. He's pretty tricky to shake off as an opposing player. He's got some good edge work and very good balance with him as well. Can't really knock him off the puck that easily. He zips a fast and quick shot, and his IQ and skating makes him get available in space for a good shot. His passing ability is good. He really knows how to reset a scoring chance, and for stick handling, he lost confidence when he eventually made the jump to the Allsvenskan, but it's kind of a mature look on his end that he didn't try too much in a league where he's kind of smaller and not really as big as the other players in the league. His compete was really good. I really liked how he put his body in between players, even though he wasn't always the biggest player on the ice. He constantly pressures and jumps defenders to steal open pucks, puts himself between puck and body on the boards. There's a lot to love about Leif Erikson at 26 for a two-way game-breaking center. And at number 27, I have from the Guelph Storm in the OHL, Jet Luchenko, one of the fastest skaters this year. Very smooth, powerful stride, covers a lot of ice with a couple of strides. His edge work is okay. It isn't really the best at start-stops. He needs the four-way mobility for me to consider him a really great skater, but straight line, he's a pass-first player, which is fine, but his shot definitely needs to improve because it's not as imposing. He sometimes gets it through on a seeing eye shot or in front of the net, but I have not seen him really impose his will from distance. His stick handling is pretty good, just not great. I have seen him lose pucks a few times. I think he really needs to improve this fact, or else he's not going to develop as a smaller forward in this league. I really enjoy watching him pass. He's very patient with the puck, looking for that open lane. I really want to emphasize, because he's a really good, patient passer in his game. The compete is a great part of his game. Engages physically. You can see the effort on every single face-off. He works along the boards. Sometimes he gets a little bit too jumpy, but he backchecks well because he's skating. He's very reliable. There's just a few offensive issues that I'm worried about, but Jet Luchenko has the tools to become a very complete forward at the next level. At number 28, I get to talk about one of my favorite forwards in the entire draft, John Mustard from the USHL. A lot of people don't see what I see, but I implore you, before the draft, please go watch his tape again and again, because it's just so fun. He skates really fast and with power. by sheer force of will, he gets some good speed and is always moving on the ice. He's just never stationary. I love that in a player. He has an excellent shot and a scoring ability to boot. Loves crashing the net. He's never above crashing the net, can shoot from distance. His lack of production, it hurt him this season. It does. But watching some of his game, he's always ripping and trying for chances, and you can't hurt a guy who just gets a little unlucky. His passing a game is a little bit underrated, but it's not tremendous. He does a good job at drawing players to create an open passing lane, but he doesn't always make the right pass. He is pretty deceptive, but again, he needs to get better. Stick handling's okay. He loves the drag and shoot and is obviously tight in the offensive zone. He has his quick movements and is still a raw product, but I really like how it's improved throughout the entire season, and I don't even need to go into the compete. He is one of the highest compete players in the entire draft. He attacks every single loose puck. He's very solid on defense, and he's also pretty physical as well. I love his compete, and sometimes on defense, he doesn't even need a tremendously high amount of compete because he's just positioned so well. John Mustard, I get it. People aren't really a big fan of him. They see the numbers. They see just the amount of chances he takes and think, oh, he's not going to translate to the next level. I'm here to say John Mustard will be your worst nightmare at the next level. Take him in the first round. I have him at 28. And at number 29, I have Cole Hudson, who I notoriously will rank higher than I did his brother. His skating is very solid, not as explosive as Lane's, but still very strong, gets some good speed generation, and almost looks very nonchalant at times, especially when he's skating backwards. A very good edge work for this guy. Shot is very heavily underutilized. He just gets some whip under his stick that I really don't see from a lot of other defensemen. His passing ability is legitimately one of the best in the draft from the blue line. I really love it. Reason being, the stick handling. It's really excellent. Very deceptive at moments and makes a lot of his game better. His compete is okay. Certainly better on defense than Lane was. He's clearly worked on his defensive side of the puck, and I can really see that. And he'll backcheck hard. Like his brother, he gets caught sliding up way too high in the zone, and he'll pay when it matters. Moving on to number 30. On my list, I have Andrew Basha. In terms of skating, he gets some great speed under him. He has a really good stride in general, and I really love how he uses crossover to just generate space and time for himself. His shot is pretty good, nothing really tremendous though. He gets some good whip on his stick, and has become less afraid to just release it from further and further as the season has gone along. I really like how his scoring ability has developed a lot more without Lindstrom in the lineup. His passing ability is very solid as well. I mean, he gets really creative with extremely skilled players like Gavin McKenna, Thomas Mercic, Caden Lindstrom around him. So yeah, he loves to just get creative and dish the puck around. But Basha really has some quick hands, and I think his stick handling is one of the better ones in the draft for a winger. His compete is honestly 50-50. I've seen him attack and be very aggressive and relentless on defense, but then he'll dog at the next shift, and I'm like, what's going on with him? So, more consistency with your compete. I saw a lot from Basho when Caden Lindstrom was out of the lineup, and I have a lot of confidence that he's going to really translate at the next level. At number 31, I have E.J. Emery. His skating style is very efficient. He gets some good speed under him, and that just allows him to make plays along with his huge size and reach. He's pretty quick on his edges, but he loses balance from time to time. He's a bit awkward with the size, yet he'll grow into his body, and that won't be an issue. His underutilized shot has got him 0 goals this year, and that's an issue. But he does get power, and he does shoot low for rebounds, and that's something that I think will help translate into more of an offensive game someday. His passing ability is really no nonsense. He doesn't make flashy plays, but he just dishes it off, and that's just about it. He's really good at outlet passes, and it makes him a better transition defenseman. So I really respect him for that type of game. He looks really panicked when pressured with the puck, which, as with most defensemen, he's more of a puck protector, but again, I would love to see him slow down the game with a little bit of a stick handling ability, but he doesn't really have that at the moment. I hope he develops it at North Dakota, but we'll see. And his compete, I really love it. I can project it as elite in a few years because you can see the work ethic. I love watching interviews of this guy because he just looks so driven. I think the compete will really be something that is a standout trait in a few years. He's going to be a great defensive defenseman for somebody at the next level. And with the last pick in the first round, in my 32 spot, I have Maxime Massé. His skating ability is one of the only things that I have to be critical about him. It's very clunky, and he's overall really slow, and he can be very slippery sometimes because of his great compete. He's always moving on the ice, and sometimes when he isn't, he's patient and he's waiting and he knows he's in the right spot because he thinks the game really well. His shot is an aspect that has been feared for a long time, but it's also helped out other parts of his game. Yeah, his shot, it didn't get a lot better over the season, but it really didn't need to because it's already pretty imposing. His passing ability and his stick handling got better over the season as a result of that shot because people were just coming towards him trying to prevent him to shoot. So he had to develop a passing game, a little bit of twitch to his stick. I loved it. He's got a good playmaking potential in front of him. And the compete. I outlined this in my overrated, underrated series because he's one of my underrated players. He can play anywhere. This guy was stacked on the power play, the penalty kill, 4-on-4, 5-on-5. He was on the first line, third line, second line. He is everywhere you need him to be. He's that utility forward who has scoring upside that you just can't find. So Maxim Massey, keep him in your first round or be prepared for him at the next level. At number 33, I have Alexander Zetterberg. He was the guy that I stuck my neck out for the most in my overrated, underrated video. And yeah, I still think he's underrated. 5'8", really small body mass wise, but this guy is a competitor. I really like his skating ability. I think he's very strong in the skates, hard to knock off, even though he's 5'8", and he's still very fast and elusive. And again, he does need to bulk up. He might need to grow an inch or two. He might need to develop an aspect of his game that will translate more to the NHL. But I think he's talented enough to do it. I love the offensive upside. I love the skill level. If he was like 4 inches taller, this guy would be a top 20 pick easily. I think he makes all the right passes. He's got a wicked shot that nobody really talks about. And the compete, he'll engage physically. He's not afraid to. I want to see how he does at the next level in the NCAA next year because he's going to be you. He's playing with Macklin Celini, Cole Iserman, and Emil Heming. Can't wait to see all that, but we will see. But for now, I have him very high because I believe in him. I believe in I believe in smaller players who are like me. At number 34, I have Yegor Shurin from Lokomotiv Yaroslavl. Very raw, but very fast, powerful skating ability. Gets a ton of movement because this guy is constantly moving. Covers a ton of ice with the right skating development. I can see him becoming a high-end skater at the next level. And despite his shot selection being below average, I still think he's a very powerful, good, solid shot under him. On the rush, off balance, in traffic, he'll just try to get it on net wherever he is. And sometimes he rushes it, but he can get better. And he will get better if he has the right development. His puck control is pretty okay. He's not very complete as a dangler or a puck protector, but he shows off some nice moves that give me some hope that he could develop a pretty solid skill-based game when he comes over to North American ice. His passing vision benefits from his good IQ, and he just reads situations very well in the offensive zone. And his compete, one of the hallmarks of his game. I really love how much effort he gives and the physicality that he offers to the next level. So Yegor Shurin is in my top 35. He's going to be a pretty solid player if developed right. At number 35, I have Taran Smith from Everett in the WHL. I think his skating is world class. He is fantastic. I love his straight line speed when he joins the rush. He's got class A speed and movement. His four-way mobility is really good too. I really like how he moves along the blue line and on the boards. Very deceptive. He's got a great wrist shot too. Really quick, really accurate. Loves to change angles mid-shooting motion. This guy is going to be a dynamo if he can develop a better part of his game. His stick handling is very high class too. He's constantly stick handling to find a better lane, and his passing ability has benefited for it. He's very smart, and his compete is very evident in how hard he works in transition and creating scoring chances on the rush. He's never afraid to attack defensemen down the middle and on the boards in front of the crease for a loose puck. His physicality really helps this trait, and I think Taran Smith, while not being a very traditional defenseman, is a very solid option for an offensive defenseman pick in your early second round or even late first round, despite being a little undersized. At number 36, I have Tory Pittner from the Youngstown Phantoms in the USHL. He's one of my favorite defensemen in this entire class, even though his skating isn't really his greatest superpower. Not a lot of power, not a lot of speed, but he's very balanced, hard to knock off the skates, and a very solid blue liner is sometimes all you can really ask for. He's got a surprisingly quick shot that he does not use very often. Very deceptive in his shooting motion as well. Stick handling's all right. He has quick hands, but they're more for passing it off, not really trying to beat an opponent. His passing ability is fantastic. He sees things 3 steps ahead like one Zeev Boyum. If Zeev Boyum goes back to college, He's getting an incredible top pair guy to pair with him in Denver. Tory Pittner is going to be playing with him at Denver next year, which would be incredible. His compete is also very good. I really like how he handles himself physically around the net and along the boards. You can tell this guy really wants to win. So Tory Pittner, another excellent option for a two-way defenseman early in the second round. At number 37, I have Nikita Arana from Torpedo. I've really come down on him, and that's because he hasn't really developed the way I thought he would at the beginning of the year. Yeah, his skating ability is a double-edged sword. Very fast. He's got one of the highest motors in the entire draft, and I really like his work ethic with the skates. But wow, is he off balance, and he falls a lot and loses an edge, and just no slow aspect to his game, which, yeah, could be really good when he's on target and not deked out of his shoes. His shot is underutilized, and most of his goals come as a result as him crashing the net, but I want to see him shoot from more distance. I like his passing ability. It's an underrated part of his game, probably the cleanest part of his game overall. It stems from a really quick and unselfish type of play. I like his drop passes too, because he'll just create chaos right in front of the net. He loves to just enter the zone, drop the pass off to the dude behind him, and crash that net. Great translatable trait. He has trouble corralling the puck in terms of puck handling, and again, that just goes into the overall rawness of this prospect. What makes me feel confident that he will develop is the compete and the work ethic. He is not a very high IQ player, but the compete just makes me think that he will translate to get some NHL game time. Whether that's a couple of games over the course of a few seasons, or he carves out a legitimate role as a third liner, he could be an NHL player that is a pretty safe bet to get some games in. I think a coach will really like his compete as a very coachable player in this early part of the second round. At number 38, I have Brody Zer from the USN TDP. Captain America, they dubbed this guy. He's a very powerful skater, very balanced, if not tremendously fast. He rarely gets knocked down, and he's more of a perimeter player, which is not ideal, but his board play is very excellent. His shot is all right, and pretty much all of his goals are in tight or rebounds, so it's truly tough to gauge his shot from deep. But that being said, I really appreciate an unselfish player who lives and dies in front of the net. His passing ability is a little chaotic, but it works with the talent around him in the NTDP. And I'd love to see it at the next level and how it will develop in whatever organization picks him up. The stick handling is an underrated aspect of his game, and I love how he makes these sweet moves under pressure and create chances for his teammates. It opens up a lot of passing lanes. His compute and IQ are what really stand out for me. Zer is a captain for a reason, and for a 5'10 guy, he wins a ton of battles. He fights like he's in a game-winning situation every single shift, and I really love how he's a wing who can take critical faceoffs. You gotta love a high IQ, high effort player. Brody Zer is that at number 38. At number 39, I have the other Vaxio, blue liner Leo Salen Wenus. He's very fast, not the quickest acceleration, but once he gets going, phew, he's gone. I love the way how he joins the attack, supports the rush without biting, and he's very responsible on defense. Compared to his line mate, his four-way mobility is not ideal, but it's good enough for right now. We'll see what he does in the SHL or the Allsvenskan next year. His stick handling's not bad either. I think his shot's pretty solid too. He's a bit of a pass-first defenseman, but when he gets some space, he can fire a good, solid, hard shot. He's enough of a threat to score from deep, and, he's one of the best shot fakers in the entire draft. His passing's really great, very seamless at finding holes in defensemen. He's a really good outlet passer as well. His IQ and play reading ability is super advanced for any player in the Swedish Junior League. I love the defensive reliability. Again, Salen Wenus is another really good option for a defenseman late in the first or early in the second round. At number 40, I have the unicorn, Jessie Pinan, an overager and my highest overager in the entire draft. He is 6'6". He skates really well, and his stick handling is insane. I love the potential that you have with this guy. He could go in the first round, and I wouldn't even bat an eye. My only issue is, again, he's 19. How was he not drafted last year? I think he has a lot of potential for a point-scoring guy at the next level, and I think this year he did get a lot of great chances. I want to see more of him playing against men in the Liga, but for now, Jessie Pinan is one of the most interesting prospects at number 40. At number 41, I have Taran Smith. I've gone back and forth on this guy, and I feel bad that he slid all the way to 41 because his scoring ability is really solid. The only part? Skating. It's the weakest part of his game by far. Stiff, slow, off balance, despite a good amount of movement when it's just a tribute to his high compete and effort level. It frustrates me because sometimes he's just out of position because he's just not there skating-wise. He's a cleanup man shot-wise, but he makes really smart traffic shots. He looks before receiving the puck and fires off balance, and that's an amazing trait. I don't know who taught him that because he's a great scorer. He's very intelligent for passing, shoots for rebounds very often. He's very smart and patient with the puck, and he just knows how to keep the defense guessing. He's always thinking about a pass-off, and I just really love his passing game. His stick handling may be one of the reasons why he's been able to get so many points. He's been able to get separation from players, and because of his stick handling, and it's not because of his skating. I think his compete is above average. He keeps his feet moving despite lacking fleetness in his foot. He's not shy physically at all. He'll definitely block shots to the next level. I love the contributions he makes despite his lack of skating. Tarek Parasak, he's not a bad prospect at number 41. At number 42, I have Miguel Marquez. His top speed is really high. He's a very fast skater, and he covers a ton of ice. He's really good at catching up to opponents on a back check. I really love his straight line speed, and his four-way mobility could get even better. I think he is the chance to be even more dangerous if he develops better as a skater. His wrist shot has become a weapon of mass destruction as of late. He used to have issues with accuracy and still kind of does, but his high shooting percentage has just been rewarded with some spectacular goals. I really like the wrist shot. His hands aren't great yet because he skates faster than his hands sometimes, but I have seen some massive improvement this year. He's just gotten better and better and better. His passing ability as a playmaker is enhanced by his high pace of play and skating ability. His vision is really excellent. It's just fantastic news that his vision is just as good as when he's stationary as when he's going 100 miles an hour. His instincts are really good, and he's always really aware of where his teammates are in the zone. His compete is okay. It's way better on offense, but his off-puck ability is not really great. He tends to cherry pick and get out of positioning, and that just gives me a headache, honestly, as a player who looks like he could be an offensively dynamic talent if he could just put in the work on the two-way game. At number 43, I have Stian Solberg, who famously was in my overrated, underrated video, and I said he was going to be in my 50s. Turns out he's 43. Yeah, I do have issues with his sense. I do have issues with his puck handling. Do I think he's going to overcome it? Yeah, of course. There's a ton of other players that I gave a lot less shit to because they had bad defensive sense, and Stian Solberg's no different. I do think the shot's great. I do think the intense physicality is great. He's the second most physical player in the draft, second to Carter Yakimchuk at 7, and I think that should be rewarded. And I think at 43, it's a good spot for him. He needs development. That's my big thing with him that I really wanted to just get across in that video. He needs a lot of development because if he goes high, he's not going to develop because there's going to be a lot of expectations on him. Take him a little bit lower, decrease your expectations on him, and slowly he'll become a better defenseman. I think you need to really round out the defensive game, round out the offensive game, get him a little bit more fleet with his stick, and again, he will transition to a great shutdown D at the next level. At number 44, I have Adam Yeko from the Edmonton Oil Kings. His skating just shows a lot of potential. I do like the speed he gets when he's at full tilt, but this gives me hope of a good transition game one day. But his quickness and maneuverability in tight is what scares me. He's kind of a liability in his own zone and just has to show more than just being a tower on defense. I really love the shot. Who doesn't? He really has a variety of shots. He takes on the rush, slap, snap, wrist shot, you name it. He scored with all of them. His stick handling is not really half bad. It could be a lot better for a big guy, but he can move the rock around pretty well. I've seen it a couple times. I've seen him beat a goalie a couple times with his stick handling ability, but again, it hasn't transitioned to a lot in terms of production. That's what he struggles with. His passing ability is really bolstered by his constant threat to shoot. He loves to fake out goalies in the offensive zone to just pass it off, but again, he just needs to get better overall, and I worry about the compete and IQ. He's really big, but he doesn't always use his size to an advantage. He gets knocked down sometimes because he's not very balanced on his skates. IQ-wise, he thinks the game at an average level. In the offensive zone, he has constant giveaway problems and missed coverage that hurts him everywhere else. He has the tools. He doesn't have the sense or the skating or the passing yet, but I can see them develop. He's 6'5". If he rounds all of his game out, he'll be able to really benefit from it. And at least you're getting a guy who's going to play NHL games for you because of his size. So Adam Yeko, he's worth investing in. At number 45, I have Aaron Kiviharju. He's a guy I really wanted to keep in my first round, but I couldn't do it. I'm too worried about the production. I'm too worried about the injuries. I'm worried about a lack of efficiency in both ends. Wide skating stride, gets good movement in all directions, but he could be a little bit quicker. I mean, he's very balanced in his stride, but there's a lot of wasted movement in that stride. So he likes to creep in the offensive zone, but it doesn't really lead to too much. And I'm about to talk about that. He's not a great shooter. He can't really fire the puck too well, but he will shoot for rebounds. Passing is very smart, very creative. When his head is up, he makes a great hard pass, but he has a tendency to make poor decisions while passing under pressure. He has a great vision along the boards, and that's where he gets a lot of his opportunities to flip the ice. He has a lethal use of stick handling in the offensive zone. He can beat a goalie one-on-one and creates a lot of time and space to make a pass. Very quick hands. His compete is not great. He does shy away from contact, so much so that he makes bad passes when pressured with a hit. Gap control is not great, and I'm a little worried about how he is going to come back after a major injury to his knee. Aaron Kipiharu, he's a guy worth investing in because you see the offensive talent. You see what he did in his junior seasons as a 15, 14, 16-year-old. But in the 17-year-old season, even in his limited playing time, I didn't see a lot that would inspire confidence to put him any higher than 45. At number 46, I have Henry Muse from the Ottawa 67s. His skating is pretty good, but not really elite. He gets some good speed and some solid edge work, and I really like how smart of a skater he is. It just makes him better overall. While covering the rush, on the power play, in the defensive zone, he will quickly get to where he needs to be and adapts to the play really quickly. Very quick thinker on his feet. His shot is quite impressive for an undersized D-man and very dangerous when he creeps up into the zone. He's a pretty good stick handler, but not really the best. He utilizes skill very well in transition and exceptionally well when he's distributing at the blue line, but I want him to get better at holding onto the puck. He's become much better at possession throughout the entire year. His passing ability, really solid. He benefits from having very good shooters around him that make very obvious passes, and I say that to mean that, he's very vanilla in how he distributes the puck. Compete-wise, he is not where he needs to be. If he wants to stand out, he needs to get bigger, he needs to push people around, he needs to engage physically. He does none of that already. He doesn't really go for loose pucks, makes bad decisions IQ-wise. Luckily, he's been progressing over the course of the season. I think he can really carve out a role for himself if drafted by the right team. And at number 47, I have Adam Jiricek, another member of my underrated, overrated series where I famously call him overrated, and I didn't even have him in my top 50 in my May rankings. In June, he made it because, I'm a little bit of a softie. I think he could definitely round out into a good NHL player. He just, like Solberg, needs some time and development, and he just needs some time and development. His skating looks pretty fine initially. I mean, he can beat defenders with his edge work and manage to keep a good gap control between him and the puck carrier. But straight line speed is an issue, and I've seen Jiricek get burned on far too many occasions to the blue line because he doesn't really have a great start-stop ability. His pivots take way too long, and combined with a lower speed, leads him to just being punished severely whenever he makes mistakes at the blue line. He's quite a limited shooter. His windup takes really long, it's very predictable, and he does shoot for rebounds, but an offensively minded defenseman really needs a better shooting ability. His passing ability is quite good in the zone. He does not telegraph his passes at all. Like, you'll never notice when he's about to pass. He's very good because his stick handling is really well developed for a two-way defenseman. I really appreciate a good stick handling game. His compete is very good. I like pure raw aggressiveness in a defenseman, and he has it in spades. He loves to implant his body on attackers and in play against the boards. His defensive IQ could definitely use some work, but in ways he's becoming a really solid, well-rounded defenseman. And I think he could benefit from more development. Of course, I'm not going to put him in my first round because there's a lot of flaws in his offensive game. For a guy who is going to project as a two-way defenseman, he needs better development. That's why I have him all the way back at 47. At 48, I have one of the highest risers for myself in the entire draft, Tomas Mrsic. I really like his skating, though his stride is really not the greatest. He gets some good speed. In a straight line, he's pretty deadly on the rush. He's very unpredictable when entering the zone, and it just makes him very elusive on his skates. His shot is truly one of the best in the draft, and it's one of the reasons why he's carried all the way into the top 50. I love how quick he gets it off his stick, and no matter what, it always trickles through. I really like the variety of shots that he's been able to score with. His passing ability is really not bad either. I mean, it helps when you have really good teammates in Lindstrom, Basha, and McKenna, but one of those high-end teammates was not there through the rest of the year. So he's only had to pass it off to Basha and McKenna, and he's done pretty good at it. He's utilized his teammates very well. His stick handling is all right, and it isn't the best stick handling I've seen in his own team, but that's because his skill around him is very high, and he doesn't really need to get the job done by himself. He is great at crashing the net. He is an unselfish style of play, and I really appreciate it, and his compete's very high. I love how many turnovers he forces because he pressures defensemen along the boards, behind the net. He is the first guy to forecheck and pressure, and it's really awesome. And I would really love to see him in the second or third line in any lineup if he bulks up and gets some better development under him. Thomas Mercic, one of the higher risers in the second round of this NHL draft. Next is Matvei Shuravin at 49. He's a very solid skater. Love the edge work too. Side-to-side skating solid too. Stop-start's very good too. His skating is almost as good as Dmitry Simashev's last year, even though he doesn't have the size of Simashev. He's very fast and efficient on his stride as well. I really, really like the skating. One of the better skating defensemen in the entire draft. He has a really slow wind-up to shooting, and he does not do it very effectively. He does shoot low for rebounds, but he's not very accurate. He needs to get better at shooting. Passing ability is really carried by his excellent vision. Even though he's not the best handler of the puck, he really knows how to dish it. He creates scoring chances more often than you'd think, and he's really solid on the rush. His stick handling is okay enough for a defensively oriented defenseman. I like how he can flip the ice and carry the puck, but he could get stronger. His compete is a really underrated aspect of his game. Not the best that I've seen, but he has some edge to his game, and I really like some of the physicality that he brings to the ice. Matvei Shuravin, he's a good bet for a defenseman this late. And rounding out my top 50, Dean Letourneau. I couldn't have him slide out of the top 50. He's too much of a mystery to keep out of the top 50. His skating is not great, and it really won't matter too much because he's a big guy and he'll cover a lot of ice, but I really, really hate how inefficient his stride is. He's so choppy and close together in his skating stride. He could use so much, and someone needs to teach him to extend more in his stride. Please, please do that, Dean. His shot's fine. I mean, he's a huge dude, and he'll use that power very well when putting the puck on net. But his shot selection, it needs to get better. He needs more variety in his shot. His ability to get open will kind of help him out in bunches. His stick handling is pretty decent, and it's hard to gauge because, again, he's against kind of weaker opponents in St. Andrews, and I did like it in his 2 limited samples with the Sioux Falls Stampede and the USHL, but I still don't really have a good gauge on it. His vision and some of the passes that he makes are pretty intelligent. They're a lot easier at St. Andrews College. I lose confidence when he misses passes or whiffs on a pass, but there are some good signs to show that he'll be better throughout the season. His compete is really inconsistent. There are times where he's going to really engage along the boards and he'll really get physical, but there are other times where he floats and he does not take advantage at all his big frame. I don't really see a high IQ game to him at all as well. If he doesn't take advantage of his frame, he's not going to have a lot of potential at the next level. That's why he's so hard to gauge, because I really don't know what to make of his season. There's not a lot to go off of with him, and I like the 2 limited samples that I've seen in Sioux Falls. He didn't score at all, and I would like to see more from a guy who's being projected in the first round, so I don't really have him around there. He's in my 50 slot, but he made the top 50, so congratulations to you, Dean. Now, like I said earlier on in the video, if you want to see these players in more detail, please go check out my Spotify below, but from here on out, I'm pretty much just going to be listing my picks 51 to 100, maybe give you a trait that I like about this player, but pretty much it's going to be just listing them off from 51 to 100. Let's go. At 51, I have Leon Mugli from EV Zug, a pretty solid puck-moving defenseman, just didn't make my top 50. I really like him, though. Adam Kleber, a huge, big, hulking defenseman from Lincoln in the USHL. Tanner Howe, famously, Connor Bedard's line mate in Regina, did not have an impressive season this year compared to last. Matvei Gridin, a line mate of Sasha Bav in Muskegon. At 56, I have Simon Zetter from Rögle BK. He did not perform that well when he moved up to the SHL. I hope that he performs better next season. Marek Vanacker from Brantford in the OHL. Excellent compete game. You're going to want this guy on your team because of the edge that he brings to your team. But his offensive game, I'm a little worried about it. At 58, I have Ryder Ritchie from the Prince Albert Raiders. The WHL Rookie of the Year in 2022-2023 did not have the impressive season that everyone was expecting this year. At 59, I have Luca Morelli from the Oshawa Generals, a very solid option for a two-way defenseman. He thinks the game very well, and he overcomplicates things a little bit, but he's still very solid. At 60, I have Jack Berglund from Färjestad BK, another very solid high IQ player from Sweden. At 61, I have Ben Danford, another two-way defenseman from the Oshawa Generals, whose defensive game should translate more than the offensive game. At 62, I have my first goalie on the list, Evan Gardner from Saskatoon. He took over the net from the starting goalie ahead of him, and he just never looked back. He was incredible in the playoffs. That's just something you look for. A guy who really is just willing to compete and win every single night. At 63, I have Emil Badinka, a two-way style of game that is just absolutely lovely. But the USN TDP, he didn't really stand out offensively. At 64, we have an undersized center from Sweden in Lucas Peterson. 65, Alexandre Blais, one of the best skill players to come out of the QMJHL this season. I really like the potential that he shows in the offensive zone. Max Plant from the USN TDP is in the 66 slot. At 67, I have Harrison Brunick from the Kamloops Oilers. This guy's trying to do everything, but he doesn't really have the skill to do it. At 68, I have Justin Poirier from Baie-Comeau in the QMJHL. Elite scorer. Not much else, not much size. At 69, nice, I have Luke Misa from Mississauga. Just like Poirier, very good skill player, not a lot of size, not a lot else besides the skill game. At 70, I have a big, tall defenseman, Seth Fryer from the Victoria Royals, who I think people are going to underrate a ton. He had a really good season, and his skating's really good. I'm a big fan of him as one of my most underrated players this year. At number 71, I have Eriks Matejko, another big, tall forward for St. John's in the QMJHL. He'll make you pay at the next level. At number 72, a guy used to be in my first round, Sam O'Reilly. I still think his potential is there as a very safe, compete player at the next level. You'll pick him, and, he might play some NHL games for you. At number 73, I have Matvei Korotky from SKA St. Petersburg. There are flashes of a really high upside offensive game from him. At number 74, Melvin Fernstrom, a guy with a pretty good shot and a pretty good two-way game. Just kind of seemed like a foil to Alexander Zetterberg in Orebro this season. At number 75, Carson Wetch from Calgary. I see a great effort and two-way game on every single end from a guy who was an assistant captain at the U18s this year. At number 76, I have Nathan Villeneuve from the Sudbury Wolves, another guy who can do most anything, but is not really good at anything. You get what I mean? At number 77, Clark Caswell, very smart passer, but needs to round out a lot of his game. At number 78, Vidi Vesinen from Kuku. A very well-rounded two-way defenseman. He just needs to show more NHL productability. I would love to see him come over early to play on smaller ice. At number 79, I have Raoul Boyard from Baie-Comeau in the QMJHL. He's a big guy. Just needs to skate better and, show a little bit more compete because he needs to take advantage of that. At number 80, I have Christian Humphreys from the USN TDP. Again, there's a big skill game from him. At number 81, one overagers in the draft, Anthony Romani from North Bay. He scored a ton this season, and if he was an 18-year-old, he'd be higher up on my list, but again, doesn't utilize teammates, very selfish. That's why he's all the way down in the third round. At number 82, I have Will Scahan, who projects a pretty solid, undersized defensive defenseman. At number 83, Miles Cooper from the Wenatchee Wild. This guy gets me excited about him, but aside from the skills game, I don't see a lot of NHL projectability because he's small. At number 84, I have Cole Baudouin from the Barrie Colt in the OHL. Everyone likes this guy's compete game. I really don't. I don't see a lot of upside. His skating's not great. His shot's not great. At number 85, I have Cam Hendrickson, my second goalie on my list from Chanhassen High in Minnesota. This guy was such a competitor, and I really like the limited action he got in Omaha in the USHL. At number 86, I have the big, tall defensive defenseman from Cape Breton, Thomas Lavoie. Yeah, he showed me a lot of good stuff in a little bit of flashes. At number 87, I have Ollie Josefsson from Red Deer. In some aspects, his skill game is really solid. He needs to get bigger and compete more. At number 88, I have on most boards the consensus number one goalie, Emil Vinny from HIFK. Very solid. I just like the two goalies ahead of him just a little bit more. At number 89, Maximilian Curran, a big power forward. At number 90, I have Alexis Bernier, who shows signs of being a good two-way defenseman in the next level. Brendan McMorrow is my number 91 from the USN TDP. He shows some skill potential. Number 92, Tomas Galvas, great player. Two-way defenseman, size. Kind of the bigger issue him. At number 93, Roman Shokrin. Again, good skating, but just the sense is just what really makes him fuck up for me. At number 94, Herman Traff. I really like some of the playmaking abilities. It just isn't enough for me to move him up. At number 95, Hiroki Goisic from the Kelowna Rockets. I really like this guy as a late round pick. He could get some NHL games. If he can translate some of that electric speed to the next level, he could be dangerous. At number 96, John Whipple from the USN TDP. I have no idea where to put this guy. He's talented, sure, but I don't really see him having a role. At number 97, Kevin He from the Niagara Ice Dogs. This guy has a ton of potential as a two-way forward. At number 98, I have Eric Berger from Orebro in the J20 National. Number 99, my favorite double overager, Andre Becker, who's playing in Prince George right now. He had a pretty solid draft year +2 season. I really like him at number 99. And at number 100, my 100 player, Another overager, Tyler Thorpe from Vancouver. I like his skating. I like his size. Give him a chance. And that is going to do it. As you can see, I do apologize for this being over an hour. Again, it's going to be longer if you decide to listen on Spotify, which I would really appreciate if you did. But I took a lot of effort to make this. And if you want to see all this in more detail, of course, listen to Spotify and go check out my website. I really would appreciate it. All of you guys have been so supportive as of late, and I can't wait for this NHL draft. We'll have one more video before the draft, and that will be my perfect 32 for 32 mock draft. I'm going to get every single pick right. No, I'm not. Hopefully I get more than 2 picks right next year. But thank you guys so much for all the support. I'm nearing my 1-year anniversary, and I just can't wait. As always, I'm Link Dansevich, signing off.